till shade is gone,
till water is gone,
into the shadow with teeth bared,
screaming defiance with the last breath,
to spit in Sightblinder's eye on the last day.
by my honor and the light.
My life will be a dagger for Sightblinder's heart.
Until the last day. To Shio Ghul itself.
This is A Dagger for Sightblinder, a podcast focused on all things Wheel of Time, with your hosts,
Sarah Lucas
and Adam Tricola. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of A Dagger for Sightblinder. May you find shade this day. Sarah?
Adam?
Are you there? Okay, you are.
I'm here.
Sorry, jeez. I was gonna say something stupid like I couldn't see you with all that shade, but
Can't see in the shade?
no, I wasn't gonna say that. How is your shade situation?
I think it's okay. How's yours?
That's pretty good, I reckon.
Perfect.
I don't know what. It's just a funny thing. Like we've had, this is what, episode 18.
Yeah.
And so we've been doing this for a while, actually. And you still haven't really met the Aiel.
I know.
But you'll meet them at least in part in this book. So
Right.
And then book 4 is just you take the plunge.
I know. I can't wait. I'm so excited.
Yay. Me too, actually. That being said, so we're covering the book 3 now. We finished book 2.
Mm-hmm. So we're into the Dragon Reborn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And we're going to stick to doing 10 chapters at a time.
I suppose we will. One thing I'll point out is this has one of my all-time favorite scenes in all of Wheel of Time.
This book.
This book has one of my favorites. Yep.
Right. Not necessarily these 10 chapters, but this book in general.
Correct. Yeah. Gotcha. So yeah, these 10 chapters, not yet. I'm wondering if they'll either be in the next 10 or the 10 after. Or the 10 after.
It's somewhere in there.
There are tens of chapters in this book. So
yeah. No, I really like this book so far.
How far did you get before we decided to kind of start reading along with The Great Hunt?
I think I was maybe halfway through. Give or take.
That's pretty vague, especially with the give or take at the end. That actually
I know
gives me useful information.
Well, sorry. I know that I got to your favorite part.
Mm-hmm. You did.
And
you weren't that impressed. I was kind of sad.
I was just surprised that was your favorite part. And I think I got like 3 or 4 chapters after that before we decided to switch gears.
You being surprised that that's my favorite part is pretty good trolling. I like it. I thought we got done with our roster roasts for the day.
We did not. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure, maybe not halfway. That might be too far.
Okay, so it doesn't matter actually, because we're gonna get there pretty quick.
Yeah, for sure.
So today we're gonna talk a little bit. It looks like you had found some show news for us.
I did.
And then I wanted to ask you a question before this, just an impromptu question. So here, I'll let your I'll ask you the question now, then we can skip to the show news, and then you can answer the question so that you have just a little bit of mental time to prepare.
Okay.
So far, like in the last two books, that
Mhm.
not counting today and all, none of the stuff that we're going to cover in book 3, like what's your favorite scene, or what's one of your favorite scenes so far?
Oh, okay. Okay.
So let's, and I don't actually, it just occurred to me to ask that. I'll have to come up with something too, because I'm not one. I think I know, but yeah. So
Okay.
tell us the news. What news do you
Yeah.
have, Sarah? I don't know this news, so.
So this isn't specifically Wheel of Time news, but it's interesting. So there is a rumor circulating that Amazon and Sony are looking to do a God of War TV series together. Which I'm sure everyone is super excited for. However, the big thing is that the rumor for the showrunner that they want in this would be Rafe Judkins, which would mean if he is the showrunner for Wheel of Time and it's theoretically getting pulled to do God of War, can he do both? Essentially, is the question. And this is so early on, like the rumor is so vague, that I don't think he would be leaving anytime soon if it was to happen. But he would theoretically be pulled off of Wheel of Time and we'd have a different showrunner. So would that affect how things are moving forward and how things are being portrayed? Because you have someone who says he is a massive fan of the series and is trying to do it justice.
Oh yeah, I think that's the thing that I was thinking was, I don't know. I don't, in terms of just the madness that goes on in Hollywood of, people entering new projects, leaving projects, having someone else come in and help, getting credit for things they didn't do, things, or not getting credit for things that they are like mostly responsible for. It's all just this huge morass to me. But at the same time, I just have to think, I mean, I guess there's two things. Number one, I'm sure there's more talented people out there than him, because Wheel of Time, I think, could have been like done better. I think it could have been.
Right.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it. And some of the episodes, I was like, oh, that was perfect. And I think, though, the show might have been produced better or something. I don't know if it would have been as lovingly crafted, though, as thoughtful. Like I almost guarantee that he's one of the most thoughtful guys about this show. Like he really wants it to succeed. He's taken the time to put together 8 seasons or 6 seasons, something like that, together. Like, and he's plotted out the story pretty in depth from what I hear. And so, I mean, I don't know how many other people would really do that. Maybe all of them, but
Right.
I don't know. Just seems like we would be missing it. Like we'd notice his absence, certainly.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So it's definitely something I think that people will want to know if it happens. It's so early that I can't, if this were to be a thing, I don't see it happening before, potentially season 3 or 4 being, wrapped and on the air. Like I don't think it would be moving that quickly.
Okay.
Personally. I
That's
could be
fair.
wrong. I could be wrong.
You totally could.
I could.
In fact, you probably are.
There was another little bit of news.
Hashtag default.
Rude.
Go ahead.
That I didn't even put in there. They are in Morocco right now. The cast is in Morocco right now filming season 2 still. So they're on location filming in the desert, which is interesting. But they are apparently going to be there for another 2 months filming.
Oh.
So if that takes you till the end of April, give or take, and you would theoretically have to edit, do post-production, possibly any reshoots, that is cutting it close for a late 2022 premiere.
I think that they need to actually put some distance between them and Wheel of Time, or sorry, and Lord of the Rings.
Right, instead of having it just be one after the other.
Well, because yeah, I mean, think of it uh, like you. I remember I was at a piano recital once. I used to play piano when I was a kid, and I remember I was actually one of the better students, one of the more adept students, and I was good. I'd been playing for 7 years or whatever, and uh, the piano instructor put me in the worst spot, like her star pupil, just this amazing, this paragon of talent and stuff. And she put him in front of me, and she was like, oh well, he's been doing it for less time, so you get seniority or whatever. But it just made me sound like crap, was what had happened. Like he went up and wowed everyone. They're like, oh my gosh, he's so good. And I went up there and stumbled my way through my piece, and everyone was like, oh well, like if I had gone at the very start, people would have been like, oh, that wasn't bad. Like I've never had pretensions to be this great musician, but I practiced enough. It was a good song. I was, I knew my business, and so I could do it, but it suffered greatly in comparison to this guy who was way out of my league talent wise. Just because he's been playing for less time doesn't mean we were anywhere near each other in terms of, and I've like dragged my feet. I hated practicing, and she was like, he practices 2.5 hours a day. I'm like, I don't know how I would do. I was gonna say something, but
you
anyways,
theoretically would have like a show coming and airing that has a massive budget, and is going to look like, if you have a budget that large, like they're putting in the effort to make it be amazing.
And it's no guarantee, but yeah, like the potential is there to just, even if Wheel of Time continues and they get season 3s, season whatever, like it's not going to get as much money, and it's probably not going to have the amount of talent, and like Lord of the Rings could make Wheel of Time just look like a really crappy, like, oh, like really, is that fantasy? What even is that? Those are troll locks? What?
So putting a little bit of distance there might not be a bad thing.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fair. That's a good point.
Thanks.
Okay, so that's it. That's all I found. So,
okay. So what's your favorite scene?
Oh yeah. Okay. Okay, so when you asked me, the first scene I thought of was when the group was in Shadar Logoth in book 1 and they meet Mordeth.
Oh, you liked that part? Okay.
I loved that part. That was like, I don't know why. I keep going back to Mordeth, but
it kind of, I think it had Harry Potter vibes a little bit.
It was so well done. And I think that was probably one of the first parts that really hooked, like really hooked me. Yeah. And I like, you knew there was something off, but you didn't know what it was. So yeah, I think that's probably one of my favorite scenes so far.
Cool. I would have never guessed that, actually. I have always thought that whole part was just kind of weird.
Oh man, I loved it.
Did you think that the show did justice to it, in your opinion?
No.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, they didn't spend that long in it.
They didn't.
I think my favorite is when Rand fights the Blade Master. He fights Turok at the end. And he's finally, like, he's been wearing a blade, his Heron Mark blade, for so long, and so many people have asked the question, have you earned the blade? Have you done, like, do you deserve it? Like, it belongs with you, but do you wear it well, do you deserve it? And he finally earns it. He's finally the Blade Master, and he is like he finally he becomes, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And then just a little bit after that, he has his like Jesus moment, kind of like of a dark friend confessing to him, and he
Mhm.
like redeems him. He's like, yeah, like, you do what you need to do, you're forgiven, my son, kind of thing. Like, it's not quite that, but you know, he even gets ritualistic about it. Like, it's just cool to see he's everything. It's the culmination of everything.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a good scene. Particularly that moment with Ingtar.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd forgotten entirely, actually, until this reread, that Ingtar was a dark friend.
Mhm.
Like, you go through the whole series, and I almost forgot who Ingtar even was, frankly. Like, it's just so distant. Once
Mhm.
you get 15 books in, you're like, what happened to book 2 again?
Like, what?
You look at the
What is
cover,
this?
you're like, oh, Loyal was in there, apparently. All right.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Okay, so do we want to talk about the book?
Yeah, yeah. And I guess we'll have news next week or something for everyone on if what our transition stuff is going to be like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll figure that out.
Have to be soonish that we figure that out. So,
Mhm.
all right. So the book.
Yeah. So anything fair game for spoiler warning. Prologue to chapter 9 of the Dragon Reborn, but we could talk about anything from the first 2 books as well.
Yeah, we can. Cool.
Okay, so the prologue, Fortress of the Light. This prologue, I don't want to say like I really enjoyed it, but I did like that it was a Children of the Light point of view prologue. Like it gave you a little bit of a more insight, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, we learn about Pedro Niall, and yeah, he's fun, I guess.
Yeah, so him and Bayer are basically talking about, the Dragon Reborn and Rand, and they don't specifically call him Rand, but they're talking about him and whether or not he's a false dragon and all that. And Bayar believes him to be a false dragon. He's saying, like Bornhold was killed, thousands of Children of the Light were killed, and it was because of the Aes Sedai, and they were being supported by dark friends, which I believe he's alluding to the Shan-Chan or dark friends.
Yeah, so
which is interesting.
Mm-hmm. No, it is. So one thing that just really, I think it's a very interesting thing. They kind of really pointed out a few different times of like, to the people on this side of the ocean, at least, if you can channel the one power, then you are Aes Sedai. It's they're synonymous.
Right.
If you can channel, then you're Aes Sedai. And so they, like, even Nynaeve, who's been in the tower, who's met Aes Sedai, knows all, she's in the other book, she's like, and they have Aes Sedai fighting for them.
Right.
At first, at least, and then eventually they kind of learn to make the distinction. But like the White Cloaks, who hate everyone who can channel because of what it stands for, of how, it's the using the power that created the world, and it's using it for abomination things and whatever. But everyone who channels is by definition to them a dark friend. They're like, oh yeah, okay, so the witches of Tar Valon are helping,
right,
they're there, like they're part of the Shan-Chan stuff.
Yeah. And then I thought what was really interesting in this is Bayer blames Perrin for everything. Says he's like the lead dark friend,
Yeah, he is. What a douche.
Right. But we do get another character comes in, Carradine.
Yeah. Well, and
And
he's the dick who was making Bornhall do things he didn't want to do.
right.
So he was
Right.
in book 2, kind of, just like kind of in the shadows a little
minimally.
bit. Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he comes in and is like, oh yeah, dark friends are they're all behind Rand and cheering for this false dragon, this Dragon Reborn. And he's given this like task by Pedro Nile to find Rand, but like he doesn't want him killed. Like, we just gotta find him. And he essentially says something along the lines of like, make sure he's not killed or you'll be dead within a month or something ridiculous. Right. Which is, I didn't realize that they would turn on each other in that kind of way.
Well, that the White Cloaks would threaten each other.
Yeah.
Kind of.
Like to get things done. I guess it makes sense in a weird way, but.
I mean, he's kind of, Pedro Nile's not happy with Carradine.
Yeah. Yeah, which obviously, makes sense. It's just very interesting, especially like, I don't know. I feel like if Bornhald's dead and you're talking about how thousands of other children of the light are dead, and then you're going to threaten to kill another one, like, wouldn't your numbers be running a little low at this point? Or are there really that many of them that you could just dispose of people who aren't up to snuff?
Well, I kind of think that Pedro Nile would be fine with just killing just Carradine, right, at least, because he's not sure if he's loyal to him for good reason, actually. Mm-hmm. But right. Yeah, I think he's like, well, you're capable, you're a capable leader, but like, I don't know. I know that when as a supervisor and stuff back, when I was in a role as a supervisor, I would always rather have someone who worked hard than right. someone who like just didn't perform but had a lot of talent. And I mean, I know I wouldn't like kill someone who didn't actually work hard for me or something, but at the same time, I mean, it's kind of the same principle. Like, it's like, what good are you doing for me if I can't trust you and you're just doing your own thing? Like, you're just going to, especially for an organization this rigid, of like, they have to be kind of fanatical in their hatred. Like they have extreme, like there's a lot of sentiment involved in their policy. Yeah, really. Like, they have to whip themselves into a frenzy. The other thing that they kind of allude to here, though, is like they're kind of, the White Cloaks are basically in charge of the country they're in, of Amador. Right. Like there's a king of Amador, but he just does what Pedro Nile says. Right. So they've got a lot of people. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. But then we end up switching points of view. So we get Carradine's point of view, and he's leaving, he goes to his room. And there's a Murdral there, just, hanging out. Yeah. Just chilling in the shadows. Yeah. And Murdrell's reminding him of his actual priorities from the Great Lord of the Dark, or whatever they refer to him as. So shocker on his loyalty. And he's Bors from the prologue in book 2, I think. Right. I did not make that connection. That makes more sense. Makes more sense. They don't go out and just spell it out for you, but that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. But yeah, the task that he's been given is to kill Rand. Well, and that's why, just as a side note, this is why, like, Bors is out there doing the things that the Dark One is telling him to do. Right. And that's why Pedro Nile's pissed, because he's not doing the things that Pedro Nile sent him out to do. Right, exactly. So now it's like, well, what do you do? Because essentially, like, they're both threatening him. They're both saying, like, you got to do what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. So who do you follow? Yeah. Yeah. Like, it's such a crap situation for Carradine. Yeah. But screw him, because he's a child. He's a child of the light, and he's a dark friend. Like, can you get worse?
I was
There
gonna
are there
say,
worse humans out there?
well, I was gonna say, like, yeah, it's a bad situation, but I mean, he put himself in it.
Yeah,
Don't really have that much pity for you.
not much.
No. All right. Okay, so chapter 1, waiting, which is exactly what happened. So Perrin is, which by the way, I love this. We get so many Perrin point of view chapters. So Perrin point of view. It's him and Uno and Missima, and they're, there's a couple other soldiers with them. They're all waiting. There's a woman who's supposed to be coming to meet Moraine, and they're all waiting for her. And Perrin's noticing that he's using his wolf senses more, and he's trying to, block that part out. So he's just trying to disconnect from that. And this woman eventually shows up, Leia, who, mentions Moraine's name. She's there for Moraine, and she's talking about how she didn't know how she knew to get to that place. She just knew that if she went this way, it would work out.
This is an example of something that, like, you don't really have much evidence of this kind of thing happening in the rest of, like, this is like this weird nebulous use of the power where it's like, okay, Moraine has some kind of tenuous way of communicating, and then you don't really ever see this again.
Okay. So this isn't like a ta'veren thing. This is, gotcha.
I mean, they're attributing it to the power, I think.
Right.
Well, because Moraine's not just going to say, oh, hey, like, we're going to just, like, hope that a ta'veren comes in, finds us in this random, like, path, like, or this little hidey hole that they're all in. I would think. I don't know.
Yeah. So that's the chapter.
Yeah. So
nothing crazy.
So they talk to Leah. What happens with is it the next chapter where they talk to Min? You get to see the viewing.
Yeah.
Okay.
So in chapter 2, Sidene, they end up going to the camp. Like, they take Leah to the camp, and she wants to go find Moraine right away. And this is where Min has the viewing. So she has a viewing of Leia having a violent death. And she says, like, she could see her face over her shoulder, and like her eyes she was completely covered in blood, and her eyes were staring blankly and all that. So that's she's got that lovely viewing going on. But we learn, like, Rand and Moraine are fighting, they're bickering back and forth, and Perrin ends up talking to Rand because Rand's upset, and he quotes this prophecy back to Perrin about being marked by herons, like, and now I just remember it because he makes, like, a notable, like, it's very obvious that he's talking about how he's got these 2 heron marks on his hands now. So yeah, and he, Rand's trying to control the sighting, pulling at him, and Perrin's blocking out the wolves some more. And Matt's off in Tar Valon, or so Perrin thinks. Completely forgot that Matt went on his own separate little way at the end of book 2.
Separate little, dismissive.
Separate little way, separate little side quest.
Yeah. It's yeah, so they're separated
right
now. Like the ta'veren, who have all been together, at least in the same approximate geographical location now, are all, they're separated now a little bit, at least, and soon to be a little bit more even. Yeah, but you have to feel sorry for Rand here, frankly. Like, he's just feeling frustrated. Like, all these people want to swear for, they've sworn for him already, they've declared for him, and then they're getting killed in his name, and he can't do anything.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so then in the next chapter, news from the plane. So Perrin's still, disconnecting from the wolves as much as he can.
Mhm.
But Moraine kind of explains to the group that Almouth Plain is in absolute chaos. White Cloaks are there; they're pushing people out. They're the hunt for the horn is still happening, and people are hunting for it, and they're obviously not going to find it because it's already been found. And there are 3 boys there who look familiar to Rand or similar to Rand, and they've been killed. So it's just a whole bunch of turmoil, which I'm a little bit annoyed, can I just say, about this, because her and Rand are obviously like disagreeing about things and how to handle things. And she's explaining this, and I can understand why she's giving the information, but Rand feels so awful already. It's kind of like she's just pouring salt in the wound at this point. Like, I can't imagine how making the point to say that 3 people who look like you have been killed, like, how does that help?
So I think what she's saying though is that someone's trying to assess. Like, I feel like this is a bigger point. Actually, I think that she's telling him that someone's trying to assassinate him, but very quietly.
Right.
And that what the White Cloaks are doing doesn't make sense because Karadin's doing both things. He's trying to follow what Pedronile has said, but then he's sending people in to kill people who look like Rand on the just like really quietly, so that Pedronile doesn't nail him to a wall or something.
Right. And I can kind of see, like, I can see that point.
Mm-hmm.
But I also like to think that, like, isn't it obvious if you're the Dragon Reborn and you announce that you're the Dragon Reborn and people are swearing their loyalty to you, isn't it kind of obvious that people would be trying to kill you?
I don't know. I think it's just a weird thing that the White Cloaks are acting one way, but publicly, and secretly doing a different thing. I think it's an intrigue thing that Moraine is pointing out. Right. I mean, she's not too good. Like she's definitely not above being kind of a B here. Like because some of her chapters, like she like mocks Lan. She does all kinds of fun stuff. So
right. And she does say too, like, she's worried or concerned that Rand is going to alert any fades that are nearby to his presence if he's, accidentally channeling or whatever, using sighting. And
oh yeah, he tried to channel something, didn't he, while he was talking to Perrin, and something weird happened. Like they had like a minor landslide or something.
Yeah, there's like a earthquake that ends up happening a little while or a little ways away. And so she's, basically saying like that kind of thing is going to alert them to where you are. Which is a fair point. I will give her that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay, so then in the next chapter, your favorite thing happens and we get some dreams.
And this time Perrin's in the dream.
Yeah. So it's Shadow Sleeping is the chapter. But he basically dreams that he's in this inn where this man is there. And this man is trying to convince him to, stop what he's doing and go back to being a blacksmith again. Which he says no, and he wants to give Perrin a drink, and Perrin says no, and he ends up telling the man that he's Taviran. And then all of a sudden, how dreams are. You're in front of in another area, and he's in front of a mirror, and he's got all of his armor on and a helmet that's like in the shape of a lion's head, and he's holding his axe. And it feels like he's been with his axe in hundreds of battles, which is interesting. And then there's a woman in his dream offering him a drink again, and he's refusing, and she's like, oh, well, I'll just be in your dreams, like you can't get rid of me type thing.
Creepy.
Super creepy. And then Perrin is on like a staircase of sorts. This was just a really weird, I mean, I guess it's a dream, so it makes sense that it's weird, but there are men there arguing, and a third man shows up and they're arguing, and this wolf appears, and then Perrin ends up seeing this sword in the air above him that he just, it's like a crystal sword, and he can't get to it. And then he wakes up.
Yay, dreams.
Yay, dreams. Literally the entire chapter is his dream.
All right, let's go to the next chapter.
Yeah. Okay, so Nightmare's walking. So he wakes up and the camp is now under attack. Like,
of course it is. Right?
Yeah. So there's like Trollocs and Myrddraal, and everyone's getting attacked. So he, shoots up and grabs his axe and runs into battle as he does. And his immediate thought, if I'm remembering right, is to try to get to Leia because of what Min said of her having a violent death, to try and save her, which doesn't work in his favor because Leia dies from a Myrddraal.
Well, I think she dies so bravely and stupidly at the same time.
Yeah, like he's going after this Myrddraal, and she jumps up on it, or tries to jump up on it to try to
grab his legs. Yeah,
and he just essentially backhands her in this ridiculous, like, he doesn't even take his eyes off of Perrin.
Yeah, he just casually kills her with his sword.
Yeah,
swats her aside and goes on to the actual threat.
Yeah. So she's died a violent death, which I mean, maybe we'll learn this later, but this whole thing. So she dies, and it enrages Perrin, and he just goes on this bloody rampage, starts killing Myrddraal and Trollocs, and he just keeps going.
And the wolves have come in too. Like, so the battle is joined, and the Shinarans are fighting. Some of them are naked, but they've got their swords, and and he's like, the wolves are like, hey, we're coming. We're gonna come and kill these Trollocs too, and Myrddraal, because we hate them.
Right.
Which is cool.
Yeah. So that's fun. And then he obviously like is injured during all of this, because I don't think he can go on a rage and not be, but Moraine ends up healing him afterwards, and she's healing a few other people, and Rand is kind of essentially venting to Perrin about how he tried to channel during it, and all he could do was basically light a couple trees on fire, because he's also, while he's trying to channel, he's also trying to fight off Saidin taking over and consuming him and making it worse, and him accidentally hurting somebody else or whatever.
Right.
And this was kind of sad, Perrin's regretting that he was cutting himself off to the wolves, because I think he knows he would have gotten warning earlier on about a potential threat if he hadn't cut them off.
Right. Well, yeah, I mean, this is the thing. He's very introspective.
Yeah.
He's always thinking about what his role in all this stuff should be. What should he there's certain things that he likes about this. Like, very clearly he likes to use his long sight, his far sight, his ability to hear, all these cool things. But at the same time, like, how much influence is he okay with the wolves having on his life?
Right. Yeah, exactly. And like, it's just a little bit sad. Poor Perrin.
Well, he doesn't know what to do.
Right. That's the thing. And like, he's just figuring it out on the fly by himself.
Which I think that's the most sad part, is like, there's no one he can really like talk to about it.
Right.
You can't really trust Moraine, really. I mean, you can't blame the Emmons Fielders for just like wanting to stay away for the most part.
Okay, so the next chapter, the hunt begins. So Perrin wakes up the next day. Lan wakes him up and is like, "Oh, Rand's gone. He left in the middle of the night." And after Moraine's healed him, he's also finding himself to be hungrier and wanting raw meat, which is interesting because he's been interacting with these wolves again since this battle. Anyway, and there's just so many great dynamics here because you have Perrin being upset and then Rand's taken off and Land's like, oh, like Rand's gone, and then Massima is concerned because he's thinking that they did something to make Rand mad, and that's why Rand left, and they're like, nah, this is what he was planning all along. And he did leave a note explaining that he's not going to let more people die for him, so he's just going to run away.
May as well,
right? Which I don't see how that fixes the problem.
Yeah, right. So this story is really interesting because a lot of things happen and you don't really see Rand's point of view very much. And when you do, it's kind of this fever dream kind of situation of like he's got definite goals and stuff, things he's thinking, but it's not necessarily, it doesn't make a ton of sense.
Right. Yeah, it's because like we're still like all of these chapters so far have been Perrin's point of view, so you really don't know what Rand's thinking aside from what he's telling Perrin.
Right. Well, now he's gone.
Yeah.
And yeah, the Shynarans are such an interesting group too because they've all sworn to Rand, but now they've been abandoned by him. But they actually belong to. I mean, they're Shynaran. They're the liegemen of a different country. Like. Right. Just a very interesting situation for them, and Moraine's like, oh, you guys can just like peace out. We don't need you guys.
Right. She does, however, point out, and I thought this was a good. She did make this as a good point. It's like the seals on the Dark One's prison are weakening and breaking, and like there could be Forsaken that are waiting for Rand and hunting for Rand as well. So he's not the safest being on his own. No. Pretty much at all.
Pretty much at all. You're right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yikes.
But we do learn, or they learn, that Rand's dreams are basically being like broadcast to the others. So they're able to figure out that he's going to Tyr, and Moraine wants Min to go to Tar Valon to keep the Amaryllis seat in the loop of what's happening and where Rand's gone, and then her and Perrin and everyone else will go find Rand, essentially. But Min has she has like a triple viewing here, and tells Perrin about it, and she mentions to him that she saw an Aielman in a cage and a Tuatha one with a sword. And she also saw a female falcon and a female hawk perched on his shoulders.
And I know what that one means, at least.
Yep. I thought it was interesting that she made the distinction that they're female. That's what I noticed. I was like, okay, like, because you could just say a hawk and a falcon are on your shoulder, but she made it a point to point out that they're female ones. Anyway, but then she also tells him that if he were to see the most beautiful woman that he's ever seen, to just like run away, have no interaction with her. And like it causes it's such a humorous scene of Perrin thinking that she's saying this because she has feelings for him. And he's like, oh, like I view you as a sister kind of thing. Like I care for you or whatever. And she just completely is like, you're an idiot. And that's when he realizes that she is actually in love with Rand. But it's just this really humorous, lighthearted back and forth. That also, considering I just called it lighthearted, is pretty aggressive from Min's standpoint. But
I mean, I think she's not very nice about it.
She's not.
She called him a wooden-headed wonder or something like that. I forget.
Something ridiculous. Basically saying he's stupid.
Yeah. And I think it made sense. Like a lot of the things I paid attention to what she said to him and stuff. It seemed like it made sense to me. But
Right. I mean, I can understand where he would draw this correlation. She's telling him not to interact with any women that he finds beautiful. Like, you could see why he would think this.
Well, there's other interactions too between them that lead up to it beforehand, like the, talking to him, just the things she said to him, but in regards to, Leah, and I mean, all of their interactions at the start of the book, a lot of, there are a lot of things that could kind of hint that direction. And then, it turns out he was wrong, but he came to the right conclusion pretty quickly.
Yeah, he did.
Afterward.
Like pretty much immediately.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so chapter 7, The Way Out of the Mountains. So there's not a lot in this one. Perrin and the group are essentially just riding. They're riding for months and months. It's now spring. Like, they're looking for Rand. And we get a lot of introspection from Perrin and how he feels like Moraine is manipulating him. He doesn't want to help her, but she's manipulating him to do it, and he doesn't want to be controlled by her, which is also a really great I found that to be like a really interesting feeling, because he's saying he doesn't want to be controlled by her, and in the last book you had Rand freaking out that he didn't want to be a puppet for the Aes Sedai. So they seem to be having these, not that I think Perrin is making that harsh of a connection and saying that he's going to be a puppet, but he doesn't want to be under her thumb.
No, he doesn't. So one thing I do want to point out, I think that it's more of a symbolic change. Like they're not writing for months. I think that it feels like winter in the mountains, and then they ride down, and it's spring there because they're in the,
So this is, I don't know if this is a spoiler or not, if you can tell me this, because this is the one thing that I have noticed is it is very hard for me to distinguish how much time is actually passing in this. And it feels like they literally, and I don't know if this is because of, like, I'm essentially reading the books back to back. It feels like they just left, Twin Rivers.
Yeah.
Like 2 months ago. Like, it feels like this whole thing has only been 2 months. And it's obviously been much longer than that. But like, I guess my question is there a length of time that all the books take place across? Like, are we talking like a decade?
So I think at the end of all of it, at the end of everything, you get like it's been like 2.5 years or something.
Oh, okay. That's not that bad.
I believe that it's not much different from that at the very least.
Okay. Because I'm like, I don't know how long it's been. And sometimes it feels like it's been maybe a month. And at other times, like, oh, they've definitely been gone for like a year.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. I mean, and here's the truth of it. Like, when Brandon Sanderson took over the series, writing the series, he wrote the final 3 books. Like, he spent a long time actually like figuring out where they were time frame wise, because like at the end of so he wrote books 12, 13, and 14, I believe, but at the end of book 11, like there were a couple storylines that were actually a couple months apart from each other.
Right. So he had to now make them catch up to each other.
Right. He needed, because certain events required characters to come together, and it's like, well, that doesn't quite work because so and so is actually already done. Like, they've been around, they've been doing things for 2 months. Well, this person has been struggling through this, so
right.
So I think that Robert Jordan messed with the timeline a little bit, and I don't think he wants us to have it all spelled out for us.
Okay, that's fair. And I didn't know if it was relevant. It just feels like it's been longer than it has been, I guess.
So one thing I'll say, oh, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, if you had asked me how long it had been since they left the Two Rivers, I would say at least a year at this point in the storyline.
So one thing I'll just tell everyone who's listening, because this is a podcast and I want people to listen to things I say, but that's how that works apparently. But here's the thing though, pay attention to the seasons, because that's one of the narrative, the ways he goes about talking about the different changes in like the weather patterns and the different seasons. Like the Dark One can exert his will over them to a certain degree. And so there'll be a lot of mention of, man, this summer's lasting too long, or this winter, like when will it stop? But you can also gauge the amount of time that has gone by how much like by these seasons. You can't tell by months, but you can say like, oh, like they even did it in the Great Hunt where they left Carrion and they did the little portal thing, and then they had traveled, but it took them 3 months and it was suddenly fall. It was autumn then. And so it was autumn when they entered the Falm area, and now they've spent like the winter in those mountains, and now it's spring. So and then what time was Beltane is like in the spring in the Two Rivers, so maybe it has been about a year. Okay,
so not too crazy.
Yeah, I think most of a year has gone by, it seems like.
Cool. Okay, so this chapter ends with them entering Jara, though. They enter this little village, Jara, and that's it.
Yay, Jara.
Yay. Okay, so chapter 8 is shockingly called Jara. So Perrin, we're still on Perrin's point of view, thinks that I thought this was interesting. He thinks he smells something wrong, but he doesn't know what it is.
Oh, let me just rewind for just a sec. I thought that the scene with Moraine and Perrin and Loyal, like Loyal's been there the whole time with them, and they teach her how to catch fish. And they do. I don't know if I like Moraine better or not. Like she just is a frustrating person to me, because I can relate with Perrin on a lot of levels. Like she's making him do all the chores, and she's like acting like she's so much better than them. Like Perrin's like, okay, like here, we'll show you how to do this. Sure, like here's how to catch the fish with your hands, tickle them out the ledge and everything. And then she clearly uses the power to catch some fish.
Right. And aren't they like the biggest fish or whatever, something ridiculous?
They're really big. Like they're big enough to actually feed everyone.
Right.
And she's just like, but then she won't share in the chores at all, and she's exerting her dominance is what she's doing, really. So I don't know if I like it. I don't really. She's very clearly possessed of the idea that
she's in charge.
She is in charge, but she's also like better than them. She's not going to share in the camp chores like everyone else.
Right. Yeah. Which is also something that's like grating on Perrin. It's also why he's so frustrated. Yeah. Okay, so they are in Jara now.
Yes.
So they do go to an inn, and Simeon, there's the innkeeper, I believe his name is Simeon. He explains there have been several weddings there, like every day, every night there's weddings going on. And they ask
plague. He calls them a plague of weddings,
which is an interesting way to describe them. But yeah, there's tons. And they ask him about Rand, and he's like, oh yeah, he's been playing the flute for all of the weddings, and he took off in the middle of the night and headed east. So, Perrin kind of lets Moraine know this information, and also explains to her that Simeon has a brother who needs help, so they end up going with him to go see his brother Gnome. And Simeon explains to him that Gnome's been saying he can talk to wolves, but Moraine's like, I can't heal him. There's nothing in him that recognizes that he is a man, not a wolf, essentially. Which is a little bit sad. And Perrin's like, he tells Simeon that there's nothing they can do for him, and he should just let his brother go be with the wolves at this point.
Yeah.
So. Well,
this is a huge. This chapter is actually very foundational for Perrin.
Yeah.
Actually,
this is big, especially when you factor in the fact that Perrin has he's figuring it out by himself.
Right. Well, so in terms of the series, I don't know if there's a chapter that he thinks back to, like a scene that he thinks back to more than Gnome.
Right.
Here, because he sees Gnome as what he could be. He's a cautionary tale of, if I let the wolves in, then I'll become like him, like they'll take over. I'll become a wolf in a human's body. Right.
And I mean, we saw this in the earlier chapters where he was trying to shut it out. Like, he realized he was using the wolf senses without even trying to use them. So now he's deliberately trying not to use them. So he was already, before he even met Gnome, was already trying to do this. So it's almost like, not only is it a cautionary tale, but it's almost like a little bit of validation for him. So,
yeah, I think, I think it's a scary thing for Perrin. He doesn't know what to think.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
Feel for him. Feel for Perrin. Okay, so in the next chapter, which is chapter 9, the last one we're going to talk about, Wolf Dream. So he, exactly what you just said. He's basically wondering if he's going to turn into Gnome, if that's his future. And he's asking Moraine this, and she's like, look, like, I don't really know. There are a few books written about it, but they're so vague. There's not a lot of known stuff. There's stuff from the Age of the Legends, but even then it wasn't known.
It wasn't Gnome.
No, it wasn't Gnome. But she points out to him that dreams are going to be a dangerous place for him, because wolves can come to him in his dreams, and he can, exactly what he said, be consumed by it and become a wolf trapped in a human's body. So he wants her to shield him, and she's like, I can't, like, it's not going to work. And there's this whole joke about him being a warder, and he doesn't want to be a warder, and she's saying she's not a Green Aja. She wouldn't have more than one warder anyway, even if he wanted to do it, which is ridiculous. But yes, but she's explained to him that the reason why it wouldn't work anyway is because these dreams are coming from within him. So she can't shield him from himself, essentially. So yeah.
So this is important too. I guess one thing I will say is, we need to pay, like, so I don't love the dream parts exactly, but pretty soon we're going to be introduced to the dream theme. Gosh, I'm trying to rhyme here, but it doesn't go away really. Like, this is something that perpetuates throughout the series, actually. And so but it gets more interesting as well. It stops being him just like experiencing random chaos. It's like he's actually able to start interacting a little bit more with his dreams, and that's what becomes interesting. So her talking about the world of him being in dreams and stuff, it's this is kind of foreshadowing for a pretty important part of the series, in fact.
Interesting. Yeah, and I mean, well, we see it. So he ends up going to to bed and having a dream, and he dreams about Hopper. And even in this dream, like he's dreaming and Hopper's there, and he's like, oh, but Hopper's dead. Like,
right.
So he's obviously, I don't want to say conscious in his dream, but he's aware of enough, like, to know Hopper can't be there because Hopper's dead. But so Hopper's there, he's telling him to run, and there's a man there. This man gets killed. There's a beautiful woman there as well, which I was wondering if that's Lanfear.
I think that we're at the very least meant to think it is.
Right. And then Hopper ends up attacking Perrin, like when he doesn't run, and he wakes up and he's got blood on him. And at first you think it's his blood because Hopper attacked him. And then he concludes that it's the man from the dream that was killed, that he's got his blood on him. Yeah, kind of gross, a little gross. And then at the very end here, we go back to Rand. So Rand ran away. Ran away. And he's sleeping against this tree, and this dog is coming towards him, and he just channeled a beam of light at it and destroys the dog, which is great. But he's really trying to get to Tyr to find out if he is the dragon or not. And he knows these dogs are watching him and coming after him.
Yeah. So you're sad about the dog, it sounds like.
I am a little sad about the dog.
I'll just say this, and maybe it probably isn't going to sway you, but you just shouldn't feel sad about the dog.
Okay. I'm not swayed yet.
It's fine. I'm not going to say more right now, but
I know
it's
well, okay. So it's actually a dog. It's not a wolf, right?
It's not a wolf.
Okay. Just checking.
We'll find out later in this book. You'll see. It's you'll at some point you'll be like, oh, okay. So
all right.
Yeah, you'll get there. Don't worry.
Okay, so that's everything. That's the prologue and the first 9 chapters.
All right, the whole 9, huh?
The whole 9.
So it was the Mac.
So at first I was like, oh man, like Rand is kind of annoying because he just runs away from his problems.
He's not running away though.
He's running away.
Well, he's specifically going to Tyr.
Right, he is, but he's also running away from his problems. He's not solving them.
I think he's trying to solve them.
He's being reckless.
That's your take on it. So you think he's the Mac then?
Well, I don't know, because Moraine also kind of really annoyed me in this bit. She's being really, I thought she was being really vague. She's always really vague, but she just, I don't know, she just bugged me these first few chapters.
Well, she like taunts Lan about, about Morel and the package, and
she's not helpful at all, really, with Perrin.
She just gets grumpy. She's, man, Rand's doing this thing.
Right.
She's gonna do this, like she's all passive aggressive. Yeah, I would pick Moraine. She's easy, in fact, to choose. She's an easy mark.
Right. So Moraine.
Yeah, screw her, man.
All right.
And also maybe the Hound. Or the dog.
The dog at the end. Okay. No.
Just kidding.
Okay, so next week we'll cover chapters 10 to 19.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
All right. Any other final thoughts?
I don't know. Let's start watching shows pretty soon. We could start diversifying the show a little bit, huh?
Yeah, we'll figure one out to start with.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, I think we're good, Sarah.
I think so too.
Good talk.
So thank you everybody for listening. May you always find water and shade.